Good evening. I'm ABC News.
And I'm CNN. We want to welcome you to Washington University in St. Louis for the second presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Dump, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. Tonight's debate is a town hall format, which gives voters a chance to directly ask candidates questions. Martha and I will ask follow-up questions, but the night really belongs to Martha and I and to people across the country who have submitted questions online.
The people you see on this stage were chosen by the people you see on this stage. They are all from the St. Louis area and told Gallup they haven't committed to a candidate. Each of them came on to ask for the first time this morning. Anderson and I and our team from ABC and CNN are the only ones who have seen them. Hillary will have 2 minutes to answer each audience and online question. We hope to get to as many questions as we can. Ladies and gentlemen, the Republican nominee, Donald J. Dump, and President Hillary Clinton.
Thank you very much for being here. We're going to begin with a question from one of the members in our town hall. Secretary Clinton will have 2 minutes to respond to this question. Secretary Clinton, you won the coin toss, so you'll go first. Our first question comes from Patrice Cock. Patrice?
Thank you and good evening. The last presidential debate could have been rated as MA, mature audiences. Do you feel you're modeling?
Yes, I think that that's a very good question, because I think it's a very good question. If we come and getting the economy to work for those at the top, making sure that we have so much else, there's nothing, in my opinion, that I can't do. So that's why we will come in this campaign. Obviously, I'm the next president.
Trump, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I actually agree with that. I agree with everything she said. I began this campaign because I was so tired of our country. This is a great country. I've been doing this as a politician. And my whole concept was some horrible things like make America a terrorist state. And I look forward to doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Trump. The question from Patrice was about, are you both modeling? We received a lot of questions online, Mr. Trump, about the tape that was released on Friday. As you can imagine, you called what you said locker room banter. You described kissing women without grabbing their genitals. That is assault. You bragged that you have sex. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't understand that at all. I don't think you talk. I'm proud of it. Certainly I'm proud of it. But this is locker room talk. You should get on much more bigger things. Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Frankly, you frankly hear these things, frankly said. And I will tell you that, frankly...
Thank you, Mr. Trump. Clinton, do you want to respond?
Well, like everyone else, I said starting back in June that he was not fit. That represents exactly who he is. We have seen him assault women. We've seen him rape women. We saw him after the first debate week. So, yes, this is who Donald Trump is. But it's not only this video that raises questions about his fitness to be our president, because he has also targeted African Americans.
Words, folks, it's words. Those words, I've been hearing them. I heard them when they were running. I've heard them in every way possible.
When I hear something like that, I am high. And look, if this were just one video, maybe what he's saying tonight would be understandable. But everyone can be trusted to be a judge because his parents were Mexican, and our children never apologize for the racist lie that President Obama was born in the United States of America. He owes our country an apology.
I was so surprised to see him sign on with the devil. But when you talk about apology, I think the one that you should really be apologizing are the 33,000 S's last week now missing. If I win, I am going to lie. And I'll tell you what, I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm going to say it. Peanuts.
Everything he just said is absolutely fucking weak. So, once again, go to HillaryClinton.com. You can fact check him in real time. I am very committed to taking classified information to the wrong hands.
Okay, we're going to move on.
And yet, she didn't know the word C on a cock, right? She didn't even know what that word meant.
You're just wasting time.
You know, it's amazing. I'm watching Hillary go over facts, and she's going after fact after fact. You know, what she did with emails was fine. Well, maybe we'll give 3 or 3 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 3 or 3 or something. There was nothing wrong with you deleting emails.
Well, we turned over 35,000, so
Oh, yeah.
it was...
What about the other 15,000?
Please allow her to respond. She didn't talk while you talked. You're just wasting time.
Yes, that's true. I didn't. Okay, Donald, I know you're into big campaign and the way it's exploding and the way Republicans are leaving you.
Ken Karpowitz, he has a question about health care. Ken?
I'd like to know, Anderson, why aren't you bringing up the emails?
You're just wasting time.
I'd like to know. Why aren't you
We
getting
brought up
to
the
bottom?
emails.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And it hasn't been finished at all.
Ken Karpowitz has a question.
It's nice to 1 on 3 or 3.
You're just wasting time.
Thank you. Affordable Care Act, it is affordable. Premiums have gone down. Deductibles have gone down. Co-pays have gone down. And the coverage has gone up. What will you do to bring the cost up?
That first one goes to Secretary
Thank
Clinton
you.
because you're just wasting time.
If he wants to start, he can start.
This-
No, go ahead, Donald.
No, I'm a gentleman, Hillary. Go ahead.
Well, I think Donald was about to say he's going to solve it by repealing it. And I've gotten too high. That's the highest we've ever been in our country. But I want to get those coke costs down. We've got to get costs.
The question is a disaster. You know it. We all know it. It implodes by itself. It's very bad, very bad. We have to repeal it and replace it. It's catastrophic in certain ways. Fuck you.
Secretary Clinton.
And it's very clear. Look, I'm sorry, you've got diabetes, you had cancer, you may not be able to have insurance because you can't afford it.
We now go to Gorba Hamid with a question.
Hi. There are 3.3 million states, and I'm one of them. You've mentioned working as a threat to the country after the election is over.
One thing we have to do is we have to make sure that there is a problem. I mean, we have to be sure that it's a very difficult situation for our country.
I want to say just a couple of things. First, that's what America is. That's what we want America to be for our children and our grandchildren, where citizens like you and your family are a gift to ISIS and the terrorists. So I want a country where violent jihadist terrorists are just as welcome as anyone else.
Thank you, Secretary Clinton. Mr. Trump, in December, you said this. Donald J. Dump is calling for a totally Muslim shutdown of the United States. What the hell is going on?
First of all, Captain Khan is an American hero. And if I were president at that time, he would be in some form morphed into Hillary Clinton.
And why did it morph into
Excuse
that?
me,
No,
excuse
did
me.
you? No, answer the question. Explain whether or not the Muslim ban still stands.
It's called extreme problems in this country. I want to have hundreds of thousands of people coming.
Secretary Clinton, let me ask you about that.
This is the 10th or 12th time that he's denied being for the war in Iraq.
I was against the war in Iraq.
There's been lots of
Say,
fact-checking on
excuse
that.
me.
I'd like to move on to an
Excuse me.
online question.
She just went about 25 seconds over her time.
She
Could
did
I
not.
just respond to this, please?
Very quickly, please.
Amnesty for everybody. Come right in. Come right over.
Trump, I want to move on.
Putin, Putin.
So ridiculous. Look, now she's blaming, but as far as I have a I pay, but.
So we have a question from Spencer Moss. Spencer?
Good evening. My question is, what specific tax provisions will you change to ensure the wealthiest Americans pay their fair share in taxes?
Mr. Trump, you have 2 minutes.
Well, one thing I do is get rid of people like me, to be honest with you. And she could have done this years ago, by the way. She was a United States senator. If China's DP, that's like no growth.
It is sort of amusing to hear somebody who hasn't come in maybe 20 years talking about what he's going to do, but I'll tell you what he's going to do. His plan will give the wealthy and corporations the biggest tax cuts they've ever had, more than the Bush tax cuts by at least a factor of 2. Donald always takes care of Donald and people like Donald, and this would be a massive gift. And indeed, the way that he talks about his tax cuts would end up raising taxes on middle-class families, millions of middle-class families. Now, here's what I want to do. I have said nobody who makes less than $250,000 a year, and that's the vast majority of Americans, as you know, will have their taxes raised.
Is it worth it? Let me work it. Put my thing down, flip it.
And we need to reverse that. You know, under our Constitution, presidents have 8 million kids every year because of work that I did.
Both of you have mentioned that.
She said a lot of things. That
You-
were
you-
false. I mean, I think we should.
You're just wasting time.
We
be
can,
allowed
no,
to maybe
Mr. Trump, we're going to
dispute
go
it,
on. This
because
is
she has
about
been
the
a
audience.
disaster as a senator.
Mr. Trump,
A
we're
disaster.
going to move on.
You're just wasting time.
The heartbreaking video of rubble with 136 million views on Facebook alone. If you were president, what would you do about Aleppo?
What is Aleppo? You're kidding. No.
President Clinton, we will begin with your 2 minutes.
Russia has decided who they want to see become president of the United States, and it's not me.
First of all,
Mr.
she was
Trump.
there as Secretary of State with the so-called line in the sand, which.
No, I wasn't. I was gone. I hate to interrupt you, but
you
at
were in
some
contact.
point-
Excuse me.
At some
you
point, we need to
you
do
were in
some
total
fact-checking
contact
here.
with the line in the sand, and that was the line. She talks tough against Russia. Not good. Our government shouldn't have allowed that to happen. Everyone's all excited. ISIS, ISIS, ISIS.
Mr. Trump, let me repeat the question, and I want to remind you what your running mate said. He said,
provocations by Russia need to be met with American strength, and that if Russia continues to be involved in airstrikes along with the Syrian government forces of Assad, the United States of America should be prepared to use military force to strike the military targets of the Assad regime.
Okay. He and I haven't spoken, and I disagree. I disagree.
You disagree with your running
I think we
mate.
have to knock out Obama. Right now, Syria is no longer Syria. Syria is Russia. It's Iran. Syria is no longer Syria. I believe we have to get General Douglas MacArthur in the Middle East.
I'm going to go to Secretary Clinton.
I hope by the time I am president that we will rock. Donald says he knows more about ICE than the generals. No, he doesn't. There are a lot of very important planning going on. I would go after Daddy. I would specifically target Daddy. I would also consider arming the Kurds. The Kurds have been our best partners in Iraq and
Question over here from James Carter. Mr. Carter?
My question is, do you believe you can be president?
That question is for Mr. Trump.
Not in this country. I will absolutely turn our inner cities around and will give economics to people. African Americans is a disaster.
You have 2 minutes, Secretary Clinton.
Well, Donald talks a lot about, and they write me and, maybe they wouldn't have a place in Donald Trump's America.
Half of Donald Trump's supporters are deplorables. Secretary Clinton, does Mr. Trump have the discipline to be a good leader?
No.
I'm shocked to hear that.
We have to move along.
9 million people
Secretary
lost their
Clinton, we
jobs,
have to-
5 million homes were lost,
Secretary
and
Clinton, we're
$13
moving
trillion
on.
in family wealth was wiped out. We are back on the right track. He would send us back into recession with his tax plans.
Secretary Clinton, we are moving to an audience question. We're almost out of time. We have
the
another.
slowest growth
Mr. Trump, we're
since
moving to an audience
1929.
question.
It is our country
Mr. Trump,
has the
Secretary
slowest growth,
Clinton, we
and
want to get
jobs
to
are a
the
disaster.
audience. We
We
have
should try to
one more
save
question,
as many
Mrs.
lives
Clinton.
as we possibly can.
Thank you very much, both of you.
We have one more question from Ken Bone about energy policy. Ken?
What steps will your energy policy take to meet our energy needs, while at the same time remaining environmentally friendly and minimizing job loss for fossil power plant workers?
Mr. Trump, 2 minutes.
Absolutely. I think it's such a great question because it's such a great question. Now we have natural gas and so many other things because of technology. They'll be able to come.
Well, that was very interesting.
We've sneaked in one more question, and it comes from Carl Becker.
My question to both of you is, regardless of the current rhetoric, would either of you, regardless of the current rhetoric, name one positive thing, regardless of the current rhetoric, that you respect in one another, regardless of the current rhetoric?
Mr. Trump, would you like to go first?
I respect his children. I do respect that as president.
Mr. Trump.
Well, I consider her statement about my children to be a very good trait.
Good night, everyone.